I think I found the thing that audiophiles can finally pull together and agree on something, and that is that most recordings are too bright. Yeah, I think they are. All music genres, they're too bright. Then again, I think we can all agree that a lot of speakers in headphones are too bright. Maybe even electronics are too bright, and DACs and phono cartridges that are too bright. You know, that moving coil peakiness that we used to hear so much about. Everything is getting brighter. And maybe it's gone over the line. Now, there's a reason why things are bright, and that's because they're more exciting as opposed to being flat, which, especially if you're used to brightness, flat can sound kind of bland or boring or lifeless, right? But I hear it all the time, people complaining about it. Oh, it burns holes in my eardrums. It's fatiguing. I just got to turn it down. It's too hard to listen to. It makes everything... Yeah. I know. I've heard it all, and I've experienced it all. I'm not saying you guys are wrong, not by a long shot. But is music too bright? Are speakers too bright? Are headphones too bright? Are electronics? Is it all too bright? So is it all too much? That's what we're going to be banging around today. That is the question. I don't know. I've pointed this out before. I think one of the reasons, the prime villain in all this, is that people, for the most part, aren't listening in quiet environments anymore. They're listening to music outside, in cars, in trains, planes, buses, parks, I don't know, mountain climbing, whatever. They're not in quiet spaces, and the music needs to have some extra push in it to cut through. And that push, for me, or the way I think of it, occurs at the range of 2K, 3K, 4K, or 5K maybe, to just cut through the noise more. I think that's why this is happening more and more. I think the further back you go in time, it would be more likely that the bulk of music listening occurred at home or in a fairly quiet environment. And now we're more mobile now, so we're more likely to listen to music in noisy places. I think that is the main problem here. But I think the people making recordings just want their music to jump out of the speaker and grab your attention. And it does. That's what the EQ is for. And I think it's become so much the norm, this extra push, this extra brightness, that when you hear recordings that don't have it, they can seem sort of dull by comparison. It's a complex question. I don't mean to make light of it, or maybe I do mean to make light of it. But anyway, I put the question out to a bunch of my friends on Facebook. And I said, well, I asked it in a more specific way. When you say, you readers of Facebook, when you say that music or recordings or speakers are too bright, what frequency range are you complaining about, right? It's usually a complaint. And the answers were all over the place. You know, there were the people at the 2K, 3K, 4K range, yeah. There's a lot of those. But then there were people who said, no, it's 6K, 7K, 8K, 10K, 12K, 15K. And I was like, really? I just don't think it works that way. But again, audio is so personal, so subjective, that trying to find consensus is not easy. But that's where I started in today's video, is that there is consensus that recordings are too bright. It's like nailing down what we mean by brightness. That's a little harder. That's a lot harder, actually, to define it. But, you know, at this point, I will pause and say, I'm wondering, you can talk among yourselves there in the comments section, where you guys think that it is too bright. And is it the music that's too bright? Or is it that the speakers are too bright, or headphones, or the electronics, or is it the combination of all those things, that they're just sort of piling up on top of each other? Bright recordings played over bright speakers, or headphones, or bright electronics, or bright DACs, or bright phono cartridges. Is it all adding up, and that's why we're just being hit all the time with all this extra brightness? because it's on top of each other. That could be I didn't even think about that, as I was preparing to shoot this video. What is the prime culprit? And it could be everything. Probably is everything. And again, your thoughts and comments would be appreciated. So, a few weeks ago, I interviewed Alex Sterling from Precision Sound Studios. He's an engineer. And when we talked about that, I think he basically came down on a recording should sound smooth, without any frequency range jumping out of the deck, calling attention to itself. And he didn't mean just the brightness range. He meant, 100 hertz or 50 or something. That, no, you don't want something to just jump out of the mix. That's a good place to start. And then there's sibilance, and I think sibilance definitely can sound aggressive and bright, like meaning that you feel like the singer is right on top of the microphone, and that extra edge, that sibilance, that jump can wear on you, depending on how bad it is. Then I can talk a little bit about drums and cymbals, but just the sound of drums overall, that they don't sound anything like they do in real life. I think that is, in terms of home reproduction of sound, drums are so far off the mark. So trumpet is another one. Trumpets are, wow, trumpet in real, I walk down the street, I hear someone playing a trumpet, and I get, 4 or 5 feet away from the trumpet and really listen, really listen and think, damn, there's so little of that in the sound of trumpets in recordings. Trumpets in real life have incredibly steep transient response. There's a lot of high frequency energy. There's a lot of real bite to the sound of a trumpet in real life. And actually with trumpets in recordings, they tend to be toned down from what they really sound like. So it does go in both directions. There's an example of trumpets aren't bright enough in most recordings. Maybe a better way to describe what's going on in recordings and in speakers and headphones is a peakiness, that the treble range is boosted over a narrow range. So it could be, you look at a frequency response graph of a speaker and you'll see little spikes in it, right? And that those things, as they jump out, because they call attention to themselves because they're so much louder than the surrounding frequencies, that constitutes an aggressive, biting sound, which is, in defense of it, exciting. The biting is exciting. So yeah, but I think this continues to go on because enough people listening to music who aren't audiophiles, and even many audiophiles, kind of like it this way. I think when something goes on over time, like the loudness wars, it's there because, generally speaking, people are like it, or certainly are okay with it, And when it's not there, like if you listen to a recording that isn't bright, it will strike many listeners as dull or boring or bland, right? So the brightness has become its own, convention. It's just there. It's ubiquitous, and when it isn't there, we miss it. So it seems to me. So then there was this reviewer who really had a thing about biodynamic headphones, and he was really down on them, saying that they were too bright, too aggressive in 8K, 9K, 10K range. And of course, everybody is entitled to their opinions. Certainly reviewers are, but everybody is. And I was thinking, are you objecting to the sound of the biodynamic brightness, or are you objecting to the recordings that you're playing over the bios that are very bright and peaky and aggressive, In other words, if the headphone is passing along that information, and then you're winding up complaining about it because it's offensive to you, are you blaming the messenger, is I guess what I'm saying here. Is the headphone the problem, or is it the recordings that you're choosing to listen to when evaluating these headphones? Is that the problem? It could just be the recordings themselves, right? Again, Hard to second guess here, but I am. That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm second guessing. So yeah, where do you stand on the brightness wars? We've been beating the loudness wars to death over the last decade or so. But what about the brightness wars? Where is it? Why does it persist? Certainly with recordings, and to some degree with everything else, the playback chain. What do you think? So what the hell is going on with brightness? Where do you stand on that? Speak your mind in the comments, please. My name is Steve Guttenberg, and this is the Audiophiliac Daily Show. If you like what I do here, please consider subscribing to this YouTube channel. Super easy to do. Hit that button right down there. When you do, hit the freaking bell so you'll be notified every time there's an amazing new episode. You could also give me a thumbs up. I don't ask for that too often, but maybe I'm supposed to, because I think the YouTube algorithm likes thumbs up thumbs up videos. What else we got? Well, we got the Patreon. Patreon is amazing. Check it out at patreon.com/audiophiliac. While you're here, check out the playlist. We got playlists for headphone reviews and speaker reviews and electronics reviews, plus interviews with all kinds of extra groovy people. And with that, I can say my work here is at last complete. Thank you again for watching, and I really do hope to see you back here again very, very soon. Bye-bye.